What's going on, people? My name is Batman, and something that every Halo fan really needs to come to terms with is that, we've followed the Master Chief through the books and the games. We've seen him from his early childhood to old age. Alright, and the grim reality is that the Master Chief is confirmed a virgin. Anyways, recently in the news there was an interview with 343 Industries general manager Bonnie Ross, and that is a very fun name to pronounce. Bonnie Ross. It would also be a cool name for a gun in Call of Duty. Just unlocked the noob tube for my Bonnie Ross LMG. You just got Bonnie Rossed on, bitch. Anyways, Bonnie Ross says she sees Halo lasting another 30 years. And Microsoft backed her up on this in a later release statement. And this is no surprise. Halo is a cash cow. They want to milk every last drop out of its name recognition. But if they're serious about this franchise surviving that long, they're going to have to rely on more than just brand recognition. Because if they continue to perform in the same manner that produced Halo 4, which granted some people liked, but judging by the official playtime statistics ultimately fell flat with the vast majority of Halo players, if they continue to perform in the manner which produced the first month of Halo MCC's launch, then this brand will not survive the decade. And that would be very unfortunate, because I feel like at this point the Halo universe belongs to more than just Microsoft shareholders, but to the hearts of the masses of players who have developed such strong emotional bonds with this game. And I personally am receptive to the idea of this franchise being around long enough to be played by the 36 children I'm gonna have popped out with 7 different Brazilians and a kangaroo. So what I want to talk about today is what direction I feel Halo 5 should move towards so that the Halo franchise can not only be around for 30 years, but continue to thrive for 30 years, so it can continue to define and revolutionize the FPS genre and reignite the imaginative passions of successive generations to come in that time. Now, anytime I make one of these types of commentaries talking about the things I'd like to see in future games, I always see a lot of people in the comments talking about how I should go into game development and how have they not hired you yet and such. But the thing is, I really would bet that most of the things I suggest in these types of videos have already been thought of by the developers. All I ever do is look at really cool game mechanics I like in one game and describe how maybe that mechanic could work in a different format. The developers at these top studios, I'm sure, are capable of this, and I'm sure plenty of these ideas are brought up during the original conception phase as well, when they're just sitting there, spitballing ideas. But there are 2 significant roadblocks that these ideas have to overcome in order to reach the final game, and for the last 5 or 6 years, overcoming those roadblocks seems to have been essentially impossible. The first being the limitations of modern development periods. In today's market, the latest possible time at which a sequel can be delivered is 2 years, which is not a lot of time at all, and essentially means that every idea that's going into the next big game is being thought up before the game preceding it has even been around that long. For instance, Bungie confirmed they were already working hard on Destiny 2 in like October, a month after Destiny 1 came out. And I guarantee you 343 is already well into the process of deciding what Halo 6 is going to look like and what new ideas they want to put into it. And they may end up making changes based on Halo 5 feedback, but the big defining stuff is being worked out right now, because I bet you they're going to try and annualize this franchise. Technically, it's already been annual if you count the releases of the 2 anniversary titles. Because it seems that Halo 5 is essentially finished. The sheer size of this beta says a lot. I'm sure there are still teams of programmers working on it and finishing building levels or maps or what have you, but larger and larger chunks of the studio, I'm sure, are free to move on to the next project. Certainly the writers, and I bet you they could actually release this game in March, but it'll make a lot more money if it's released during the next build up to Christmas in the fall, which is probably for the best because it gives them plenty of time to properly quality test for bugs and such. What I'm trying to get at is the reason I always do these suggestion type videos so early is because I know the development of these games is taking place long before their actual release, and so if you really want to have an impact, you have to move on it early. We as a community have to exert what influence we can early. And the second roadblock to in-game implementation that great ideas are facing these days is fear in the face of public opinion. Developers, I think, are faced with a very contradictory set of goals when it comes to building these games. On the one hand, they have to make the new entry different enough to justify its existence. There has to be a significant level of change, and if they fail to do that, their fan base will inevitably feel milked or let down. They will wonder why they had to buy this new game at all, and that's the mentality that has slowly degraded and ultimately bottomed out the COD franchise. You have to wonder if the exosuits are too little too late. Or they might wonder why they are paying full game price for what seems like it could have been DLC, and that's a big part of what's plaguing Battlefield Hardline right now. They failed to change enough to be new enough, and in many Battlefield fans' eyes, they failed to outdo the previous title, Battlefield 4. Because not only do they have to change, but people expect sequels to be superior experiences. and thus they have to find the changes that make the game better, but sometimes that can be very difficult, for one, because sometimes developers find perfection, but then they are still required to change it and make it better. For instance, I consider Halo 3 a perfect game, and I know not everyone will agree with me on that, but honestly, in terms of its skill gap, of its replayability, the diversity and uniqueness of its experiences via vehicle gameplay, and every map being its own super creative puzzle incorporating grav lifts, grav jumps, and teleporters, and now at 60 frames per second, Halo 3 is going to be my game of the year, and it's not even its own game this time around. I think it's perfect. I think it's Halo's qualitative peak so far, and what's fucked up about that is that I'm not sure they can outdo it without a dramatic revolutionary change that completely redefines Halo's basic format. I think as far as Halo's standard format goes with 4v4 arena style gameplay, even after my time with the Halo 5 beta, Halo 3 still did it better, because what they've done with Halo 5 is rearrange, tweak, and change the game mechanics of the traditional Halo experience, along with throwing a few new ones in, such as the ground pound and a different ADS format, but they didn't need to implement those changes to make Halo a better game. But they had to implement those changes to make Halo a new game. Does that make sense? And I'm sure there are plenty of you who probably feel the same way I feel about Halo 3, except maybe with Halo 2 or Combat Evolved or Reach or maybe even Halo 4. When a series has this many sequels, they inevitably reach this point where they are changing just for the sake of changing. And that mindset rarely produces higher quality products as opposed to changing to make a game better. And to make matters even more difficult, a lot of the time the fans' preferences aren't necessarily determined by an objective view and assessment of game's quality, but simply by which game said fan played first. I don't think it's a big secret at this point that if you look at what people's favorite entries are in a particular series, whether it's COD or Halo or Battlefield, a lot of the time their favorite entry is just the first entry they came into the franchise on. For a lot of Halo players, that means Halo 2. For a lot of COD players, that means MW2. And so at the same time, not only do they have to change, but they have to not change as well. And in the face of this extremely contradictory set of requirements, developers and publishers' assholes close right up. Their balls shoot up into their tummy and they assume the fetal position. They get caught in this ultimately self-defeating process of trying to find changes that are meaningful enough to justify the sequel's existence and perhaps bring in new players, but at the same time changes that won't alienate too large a portion of the fan base that they already have. But inevitably, the changes always do alienate people. That's evident with Reach, Halo 4, and with people's reactions to Halo 5 even. You know, people don't like Sprint, they don't like ADS, not everyone, but a big portion of people, because that's not their idea of what the traditional Halo experience is supposed to be, but Halo 5 had to have those things to be a different Halo to justify its very existence. So, with Halo 4, they didn't set out to execute a new vision of Halo, they didn't start out with new ideas, they said, hey, what's the safest way to release another $60 game with the title Halo in it? And instead of going to the drawing board to think up new ideas, they went to the focus groups. Because the safest way to avoid alienating people and to guarantee you can bring some new people in is to let the players themselves tell you what you want and then do that. Focus groups are the safest strategy, but it'll never be the best development strategy because the players, the fans, the people don't know what the next big thing is. They don't have the best ideas. That's what developers and writers are for. That's what you hire people to do. The concept of health regenerating after every fight in the form of shields, a mechanic that was later adopted by COD and ultimately defined the entire genre, that didn't come from focus group. That came from a group of talented creative developers who had a deep understanding of the FPS genre and what makes an FPS fun and what could make it even more fun. But even if the idea itself sounds good in theory, you can't know for sure that an idea is going to be successful until it's actually been implemented, and that's why we see so few new ideas these days. If it hasn't been done before, they don't want to risk it. Halo 4 was defined by the safety of Call of Duty. The developer said, hey, here are some big changes that we can put in Halo, kill streaks, customizable classes, and Sprint, that we know are safe because they've already been done and are very successful and popular in Call of Duty. And I know that's what was being said in those focus groups too. All the COD players were saying Halo's cool, but it doesn't have kill streaks or customizable classes, and I know that's what they were saying because that's what the fuck I was saying. But then, when I played Halo 4, I realized it sucked. That those mechanics didn't belong in Halo because it stopped being Halo at that point for a number of reasons that I've gone over at length and in detail in my Halo 5 is for Noobs video, which actually has very little to do with Halo 5 specifically. It was just clickbait, but I still recommend you check that video out if you're curious about the specific reasons Halo 4 was a fail. But regardless, Halo 4 flopped, and that's not a matter of opinion. We know based on its super low playtimes, playlist populations, and sales that it was rejected, and so Halo 5 shunned all the major changes Halo 4 made, and in fact, the Halo 4 port in MCC didn't even bring in its biggest changes. It doesn't have the kill streaks, doesn't have customizable classes. But I think it's obvious Halo 5 is still playing it very safe. I mean, what is Halo 5's huge contribution to the series? A different kind of weird ADS format? Ground pound? Enhanced mobility? All they did was bring in mechanics that have gone over well in other games before. If Halo is serious about reclaiming its throne as the dominant FPS on the market, it needs to stop following trends and start setting them again. And to be fair, these mechanisms are fun. I actually think they have struck a decent balance in changing the game while retaining its core appeal, and I've had a lot of fun on the beta. But ask yourself this, excluding 60 frames per second, is there really anything being done in Halo 5 that couldn't have been done 6 years ago on the 360? Because I don't think there is. Safety will continue to take priority over innovation because the people at the top, the decision makers, have only one thing on their mind: the money. Activision, EA, and of course Microsoft. These are major corporations, and at the top of the chain of command, a CEO answers to shareholders and investors, and if that CEO's numbers are down, said CEO will lose his job, which will deal a potentially lethal blow to his career. The CEO himself and the shareholders probably don't even play video games because they are high-powered businessmen working 60-hour work weeks, and their leisure activities include those intense 1%er parties. Amazon got some heat recently because it did not have a very good year financially speaking in 2014, but Jeff Bezos, Amazon's CEO and founder, argued that people were looking at it the wrong way. They spent a bunch of money on experiences that perhaps didn't return on investment or haven't returned on investment yet, like drones delivering your packages to your door, but that doesn't mean that in the future they won't look back on that money as well spent, because the short-term thinking that goes into judging each individual year or sales quarter by itself is self-defeating in the long run because it doesn't allow for the kind of innovation that is necessary to adapt to changing markets and demographics. And the sad truth is that there aren't many people at the top of these major corporations that think that way. In fact, Jeff Bezos might be alone in this mindset. And I think that is especially evident with game publishers these days. I think that most of the major game titles released this year are still living in the past in the sense that there is nothing they are doing that couldn't have been done 6 years ago on the old gen consoles. And that's because nobody at the top is going to be comfortable with risking the unknown because they can't be sure that the unknown will have the same level of profit returns. As I've argued in previous videos, I think that's what happened with Destiny. It was new, it was revolutionary, but in the last year of development, someone was like, hey, what if it's too complicated? Dun dun dun! This game is too next gen, cut everything! You people need to remember our studio motto. It ain't great if it ain't 2008. So what they do instead is re-release games with the addition of content or mechanics they are confident will work because they worked well elsewhere, and the result of this is that new kinds of gameplay leak into the industry at a frustratingly slow pace. For instance, 2014 was the year that enhanced mobility feature was copy and pasted into each major shooter in one way or another, right? And ultimately, over the last 5 years, the gaming industry, but the shooter genre especially, has seen a nearly non-existent level of innovation. And, not surprisingly, despite their best efforts, every major gaming title has seen a decline in its success. Whether it's Halo 4, Battlefield Hardline, or Call of Duty Ghosts. It's short-term thinking that takes a long-term toll on the quality of the industry as a whole. Nobody wants to touch the unknown, but the problem is the best ideas are out there in the nether, and they haven't been tried before. When Halo brought in regenerative health, it was a largely new, untested concept, and it was very successful, and then every game in their dog immediately implemented some form of automatically regenerating health into their games. And by Halo 3, most games had abandoned entirely the previous universal system of healing, which had always been, required med packs or some sort of item to restore your HP. It was an applaudable, innovative mechanic. We can't expect the cowards that rule our games industry to grow a pair. We have to acknowledge that they will always defer to the judgment of the focus groups. And what happens when they run these focus groups? They get a bunch of average gamers just like you and me of all ages, they put them in a room and ask them what they like or what they don't like in Halo or other games, what they want in future titles, whatever. They do that with a few hundred, maybe a few thousand subjects, then they extrapolate that data to represent the roughly 20 million of us that play FPS games regularly, and then they tell the developers what kind of shit to put in their game, bada bing, bada boom, we just get some recycled bullshit. But there is an opening here, don't you see? They are deferring to public opinion. If we want a better gaming industry, all we have to do is dramatically change public opinion. We have to influence what the fuck is being said in those focus groups. They are handing us the ball. We gotta run with it. We have to infect each and every gamer with a thirst, a lust for creative revolution. We have to engage with every friend, with every random stranger on the internet, and aggressively pound some cool shit into their fucking skulls, and we can all just sit around and skull fuck some creativity into one another. We can't just talk about what we do or do not like, we gotta talk about what we think would be cool and why. Fuck your ADS and thruster pack. I don't care about neat additions to the overall gameplay experience. I want some shit that is gonna blow my fucking mind. I want a game that ruins my life because I can't stop playing it. We as a community must foster an environment that demands a good mind-blowing. So when Bonnie Ross sits down some noobs for focus group testing and she says, hey noobs, what do you want in the new Halo? I want those noobs to be like, blow my mind or get the fuck out. Then Bonnie Ross and some other focus group testing chumps are gonna meet up with Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, to talk strategy, and Bonnie Ross is gonna be like, based on our data and consumer metrics, the most viable path forward to effective financial returns is to blow the fucking minds of our audience. And then they'll pass that order on down to the developers, and the devs will be like, finally, we have an opportunity to realize our full potential and build the masterpiece we are truly capable of. No longer are we restrained by the hopeless efforts to legitimize Frankenstein games. Thank you, online Halo community, for saving the day. And then the Activision CEO, who goes bankrupt because he can't compete with the super innovative quality of the new epic Halo, is like, and I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling members of the online Halo community and their stupid YouTube channel. If I'm scrolling Reddit like a boss, like I always do to get neat ideas to use in a commentary, I want to see the goddamned How Halo 6 Can Change the Whole World in Human History thread stickied at the top of that motherfucker. I want Halo to go balls deep into concepts it's only flirted with before. 343 should use the open world in ODST as a starting point and deliver the kind of campaign that Destiny advertised, but ultimately puts it out on at the last minute. I want to drive around in an open world environment in a Warthog with my friends like how I do in Far Cry Co-op, and Far Cry Co-op is a lot of people's favorite part of that game. Just getting into one of those mounted turret trucks and driving around and killing wild animals and other people and sometimes innocent people. They need to get the fuck out of the road. Open world co-op should be the model and basic premise of every campaign in the future. I'm done with linear campaigns that decide which level comes next. I don't want levels anymore. I want an environment. I don't want to progress. I want to evolve. And actually, fuck warthogs. I want to roll around in an open world Halo environment with 5 of my friends in an elephant. Remember the elephants from Sandtrap in Halo 3? I want one of those motherfuckers, and I want to drive around and fend off hordes of synthetic flood, the virus revived in an even more dangerous and unthinking way because a mad scientist tried to bring back life on Reach using the flood's regenerative capabilities, but accidentally created a master race of flood, and now me and my boys gotta go down in our elephant and slay all the flood on the glassed remains of Reach. I think it's time to move away from the Forerunner storyline and Cortana and Chief and all the bullshit. If this is a new generation of Halo, let's not waste time reliving odd fragments of the past. Let's embrace the lore's future. Now that the war with the Covenant is over, does humanity break out into civil war again, which is what the Master Chief was originally designed to deal with? Could that civil war serve as a premise for that first ever Spartan vs. Spartan war? Not some bullshit training simulator, but an actual war between Spartans? I want gravity to play a bigger role in multiplayer. I want there to be a control panel on the midship remake that I'm sure they'll have that lets me turn gravity on and off. So everyone's just minding their own business, playing around on the map. They got the flag, they're gonna score the flag, gravity off, bitch. Throw a plasma grenade. Some crazy gravity shit just went down. And I want to be able to go underwater and fight underwater like a boss fish. I want to start taking advantage of the Spartan's superior strength. If I board a Warthog, I want the option to either get my ass in the driver's seat or option 2, use power throw to chuck that motherfucker across the map. Triple kill. No, overkill, because not only did I kill the 3 people in the Warthog, it crushed the 4th person. And then I get another medal with a mean face on it, and the announcer is like, Hulk. I want to throw lots of shit. I want to pick up a ghost and chuck it at a bad guy and splatter them. I want to pick up an explosive crate and throw it up into the air at an enemy hornet and then bust out my BR and shoot the explosive barrel right when it's next to the hornet in midair and blow those soggy cunts out of the sky. I want a map where the only way to activate the teleporter to get to the other side is to throw an object at a button on the wall. I want a dodge while game mode. I want to throw the flag in CTF like it's a spear and have it impale my enemy, and he lets out a blood-curdling scream and crumples to the ground and gets removed from the game because he just got killed so fucking good. I want gore and ragdoll effects. When I execute someone, I want to punch into the back of their helmet and rip out an AI, and the AI is all screaming, and then I crush a little bit. And I want a forge mode. I want forge mode to have more mechanical stuff like with redstone in Minecraft. I want to be able to set up control panels to build elevators and escalators and launchers and all kinds of crazy shit and spaceships and use it to determine whether to turn off and on certain teleporters, grabless, or shields. I want more than recycled mechanics that I've already used in other games. I want a revolution. Please take this time to share in the comments what you want in future Halo titles, what you want Halo 5 to do, because there is still plenty of time for this game to change in meaningful ways through DLC and updates and of course the 8 months left till its actual release. Talk about what you want, get creative, get fucking stupid with it, and please rate the video if you support the cause. May the Force be with you, always. This is Batman, signing out. while I'm at it, pluff. Pluff means something is puffed up and fluffy, like a puff fish with kitty fur. My cat is very pluffy. It's not in the dictionary yet, but if I used it and you knew what it meant, then yeah, it's a fucking word. The dictionary isn't the final authority about what is a word and what isn't. Webster didn't say that lol is a word, but we as a culture said it was, and then Webster put it in their fucking book. So stick that in your dictionary and read it, motherfucker.